Everyone, buen dia a todos. I'm YG Garcia, and this is Konnichiwa Habibi with YG Garcia. Let me get a little closer. We're doing a little different format today. We're trying to do Zoom again. Seems to be working better. So today we have a very special episode for you guys. We will have two other characters from the novel. I'm a spoiler machine. I'm worse than Tom Holland. But we'll be talking about what is it like to be Mexican American. The title of the episode being Born on the Other Side, the Mexican American Experience. And I am here with our guest, Luis Garcia of California and Eric Mendoza of Georgia. Eric is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, and happy birthday also. Happy Veterans Day. And Luis owns a business called Nebula Oil. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, that's good.
And more on that later. We'll definitely give him a chance to plug that and other ventures he may have. We wanted to talk a little bit about what makes them unique in their context and what unique experience that cultural combination provides. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms, Twitter at YG Garcia Author, and Instagram at YG Garcia _author. And our YouTube channel is still under construction. The more we upload, the more subscribers we get, the more likely they are to give us a URL and make things easier to locate. Definitely share the videos once we upload them. We had a great interview with Treka last week, a journalist and an entertainer from Syria. And we've had other readings from other Meet the Cast episodes up there as well. Now back to our show and our guests. We have a lot to talk about, so let's not keep them waiting. And we hope you have one stereotype at least destroyed by the end of the podcast. So, welcome, and it is a pleasure to have you on the program today. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric, where you lived, where you live currently, sort of the culture shock, that type of deal.
Well, I was born in Dallas, Texas, actually. Lived there for about 5 years, and then my family moved over to Georgia, where I lived till I was 19 years old, joined the Marines, did that for about 4 years, and came back to Georgia.
All right. And what was it like compared to Dallas? So Georgia compared to Dallas.
I mean, honestly, I don't really remember much of living there. Like I said, I moved when I was 5, so I don't really remember any experiences from there.
Gotcha. And so obviously you're Mexican. Have you been to Mexico in your childhood recently?
Not recently. When I was younger, we used to go every year. But I think it's probably been about 12, 15 years since I went.
I'm due for a trip to Puerto Rico as well. So given that it was you going there instead of vice versa, what was it like? What did it feel like?
I mean, it was definitely different. Like, it felt a little more open, I guess. Like you could just walk around and do whatever you wanted, kind of like just walk around with your friends, walk around to the stores and stuff. Whereas here you have to pretty much drive everywhere. It's like where my family's from, it was kind of a smaller town.
Okay.
Like more rural.
Rural areas are the best. Same here. All right. And Luis, same question to you. A little bit of your background, where you've lived, if you lived anywhere else, and have you been to Mexico, and what culture shock that might have brought?
Born and raised all my life, still residing here in California, Anaheim. That was my birth city. And right next door, we moved over to when my father got us a house in Garden Grove, and I stay in between addresses after my parents departed, divorce-wise. So right now, I'm just taking care of my mother financially, and just do it the most I can. So that's why I built the business. We'll speak on that later. And I went to college, didn't really like the vibe, and I kind of made myself a little stranded in life. So the past 10 years, it's been a lot of self-exploration in terms of trying to figure out who I am, what I am, and exposing myself the most I can with the different types of jobs and experiences. And so far, I kind of like that little funky formula. I love experiences. I get a little taste of what I like and what I really don't like. And that is my formula for self growth. Um, so, in terms of culture shock, so primarily, I want to be an entrepreneur, a business owner. So that's my goal nowadays: be
Mhm.
self-sufficient as much as I can with the acquaintances and friends that I have, and limited knowledge and continuous exposure to different ideas and incomes. Culture shock. I've been. I've had a few trips to Mexico. The last time was a while ago, probably about 10 or 11 years ago. Um, Total number of times, probably 4 or 5 times average from what I can remember. Uh, Cultural differences over there, because it's my bloodline, uh, where it comes from. It's very welcoming, comforting. Uh, you can pretty much, well, maybe back in the days like 90s, early 2000s, there was a much more of a much softer, more open vibe in terms of you could walk up to somebody's house and say hello, share stories, and as if you knew each other for the past 20 years. Uh, Everybody was doing something. Uh, the women were either, uh, what's the term, housemakers, or just stay-at-home moms, basically, or helping out a family business within the household, or a couple of blocks away at a facility or store, selling merchandise or making food items, managing restaurant or whatever else. So it was a very close knit community, both neighbors and business owners, and often just about every family was interlaced with each other in terms of helping each other's businesses. So it's a
Interesting.
very, yeah. So they help each other a lot at times, and so it's basically I scratch your back, you scratch my back type of social layout in just about every block in every city. Well, not every city, but the the city that I went to was Yorecuaro, Michoacan area. I don't know whether which in terms of state or city. I'm terrible with Mexico demographics, geography, let's say, and uh, neighbors say hello. The kids play with uh, other people's kids, soccer, bicycling, whatever. Um, they have game consoles that are 10 years behind because buying them new can be extremely expensive.
Yeah, I've
And
heard.
yeah, and so you won't be don't be surprised if some people still have a PS2, a PS1, or and the average nowadays PS3 still. And
I was
especially with
surprised. Oh, go ahead.
the lackluster internet connection, they
Mhm.
might still play like offline titles, play
Uh,
co-op with another kid, another neighbor or sibling within the same household, the same TV, whatever. So not every house is like completely run down and not really that high tech. Some can afford it, but it's very different.
Interesting. So a couple of things. So it reminded me what you just said about game consoles. I remember a friend of mine in Puerto Vallarta. He got a Nintendo Switch, and he we met as in a Pokemon group. That's why I met Eric in another Pokemon group. So this one where I met the one from Puerto Vallarta, it was all in Spanish, and so he was gonna play Pokemon Shield, and we're gonna be all updated in the new generation of Pokemon, and I'm like, I can't imagine how much that dude had to save to buy a Nintendo Switch down in Mexico. And then the game. I mean, games here are expensive, like $60 for a little cartridge. Which I'm like, I mean, sure, like there's a lot of man hours into that, but anyway. And then the other thing, you said about the entrepreneurial nature of the women, it just reminded me of when I went to visit you and your family, and your mom had her nail business out of the garage, and it's like it just seemed like second nature to her. Even though it was like apparently new. Wow, like she's like really doing her thing. A lot of respect. So Eric, what led you to stay living in Georgia?
I mean, pretty much just the fact that my family was all here. Pretty much everyone I grew up with and knew was here.
Gotcha.
That and I mean, like I said, it's more rural. Like I kind of like that. I don't like being around a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, I think of Georgia, and of course, rural comes to mind, but like I think of Atlanta, and I guess probably everyone thinks of Atlanta, and for a moment you forget that Georgia can be very rural. So that's it's interesting. Like the fact that you were able to find a place that I guess feels like home. Is
Do what?
that like that you were able to find a place that kind of like resembles that vibe in
Oh
Mexico,
yeah.
where it's like very rural and well, what are the people like in Georgia?
I mean, I feel like for the most part they're friendly. Like you can pretty much just wave at someone, they'll wave back. They're not really going to be looking at you unless you're doing something crazy. They're not going to give you any nasty looks or anything like that.
Really? Which begs the question, $1 million question. Racism, in your perspective down there, is it like a pervasive issue? Like the media would have us think. Um, Seems like it's not. What's your take on that specifically?
I mean, me personally, I haven't really dealt with too much racism. Like every now and then, you like get someone that's kind of you know really racist and well, at least give you a dirty look for no reason and you don't know why. But I feel like
Hmm.
that's extremely rare. Like I feel like for the most part,
Hmm.
they don't really talk to me any different.
Interesting. And it's strange because when I hear people here in Rochester, it's a very um it's not a very cohesive city, and there's a lot of racial division here. And I had one guy tell me, "Oh well, the cops when they look at you, when they look at me, they look at us the same." And it's like because we all have dark skin, and I'm like, I don't know if that's true. So, like I said, we're in the business of shattering stereotypes here. Um, Louis, how about you? What's your experience with racism in your area?
Outside of myself, what I've personally been hit with, or just what I observe in my
Well, like
environments.
is it like really pervasive? Like is because people have, or I feel like what's being portrayed in the media now is that America is like a really, really, really racist country, and that people like us can't walk around and have peace of mind. Like, what do you
Mm.
think about that notion, or what's your experience?
Okay, yeah, there's like the media side, and then there's like what I see, on the streets, at the stores, whatever. So with racism, I don't think not terrible here, not at all. I really love the city. There's so many diverse restaurants, shops that have a theme of Japanese, like Daiso, or iced coffees, Vietnamese. It is a very huge population of Asians here in Westminster. I believe um, it is the biggest population of Vietnamese people outside of Vietnam itself. I'm
Oh
not sure how
wow,
many. I'm not sure how many thousands of people reside in Westminster that are, um, you know, direct from that country.
I think that
And
Trina, the Yellow Ranger, was from there. I think I remember that in her bio. That makes sense because she's a Vietnamese refugee. Rest in peace.
uh yeah, and I think from what I see with the Asian community, the Koreans, Vietnamese, they tend to get along quite well actually, and especially if they have multiple generations who have lived on this soil in the city, and they know each other's history, uh, whether as family or business partners. Um, so they help each other out. I assume. With other demographics, there's not so much of like African American, Indian, primarily here it's like Asian, whites, and like Latinos, Hispanics, and
So
it's
on that note, so you did bring another fact in the dynamic, and so I hear people in academia say that anybody who's not white cannot be racist, and I'm like, I don't know about that. That wasn't my
no,
experience when I came to the States.
right, yeah.
So I guess it's a twofold question. So when dealing with Caucasian people and when dealing with other races, do you experience racism at all? A little bit, a lot, none?
Uh, I noticed like when I go to Main Street, that orange circle area that
Mm-hmm.
we explored,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even as simple as my height, it throws them off.
Mm-hmm.
My complexion, they won't really figure out like what I am. They won't say it, but sometimes just a split second of a frown says everything to me. And
Mm-hmm.
when they can, when let's say a Caucasian family enters their store and the owner's Caucasian, they just click like immediately. You know, oh, my grandmother used to have that, blah blah blah, and he would just create such quick rapport with that conversation. And
It,
if I was to ask them a question, their tone might slightly change. That's not everybody, but
right.
most people, most Caucasians who I communicate with, they're actually very attentive. They want to help me out, and but there are a few times where I feel a little disturbed or uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
because as long as you understand my accent shouldn't matter too much. As
What
long as I
act?
can be understood. Right? Everybody says I have an accent. I just don't get it. And yeah, so I think with racism, it's in the city, in the perimeter that I've seen here, it's not terrible to be honest. But I do notice some maybe undertone, excuse me, like maybe not tension. I don't know what's the word, the proper one, with the Asian community in which they just don't really want to talk to non-Asian speakers unless they want something like information, like how much is this, whatever. Do you have, where do you have this and that? Other than that, they don't really try to click with any other races in terms of
Interesting.
like casual conversation. They're very selective. They're very, I don't know. I just haven't talked to them at all because most of them are uh, they migrated here and they've resided here for like 8, 12, 25 years and they still cannot speak a full proper sentence of English. And so they just stay stuck with that.
Gotcha.
At a
Well,
business,
oh,
make enough money to send their kid to university or school, and then their kid was born here, and then they get the household could get a little very Americanized because of what the kid it gets exposed to at the high school or whatever as they grow
mm-hmm.
up. And yeah, yeah, I'm not sure what else to say
Well,
about the racism behavior.
so on that note, Eric, do you see between other races, is the dynamic different, or is it just everybody gets along like a utopia?
I mean, not everybody gets along because I mean, you do have some people that are just awful, but I
Yeah,
feel like it's not. Yeah, you can't really help that. But I feel like for the
Right.
most part, everyone gets along.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Interesting.
I think they do their best. Everybody does their best to not create tension and to not make
Mm-hmm.
other people uncomfortable. It's always that primitive instinct to associate with people who are similar to you, and I don't blame that. And that's completely normal. Uh, Low key groupthink behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can suppress it with enough practice or whatever, and then you get a couple of like dweebs here and there who are just absolutely just maniacs. They may not vocalize it, but you just feel their vibe completely.
Hmm.
And you just simply don't associate with those people. You just stay away from them to not cause any friction. Don't take
Gotcha.
it personally.
So, so I guess so. This question for you, Eric. Uh, so Lewis mentioned that in his experience, he had like when he interacts with some Caucasian people, like they start like trying to name every Hispanic person they know that and they like and like that really like awkward conversation and like walking on eggshells. Like it's for me, like it happens at the workplace, and they just don't want to sound racist and stuff. There's one in particular that he ends up being racist by trying to censor any sort of talk about culture or whatever. And it's just I just laugh. Well, I laugh at that, and then I feel bad for the others that are walking on eggshells. How do you perceive that happening around you, where white people are walking on eggshells around you to not offend you?
I mean, not really. I feel like everyone just talks to me like normal conversation. They don't really treat me any different. Like they just happen to have a conversation about how their day's going or what they've been up to. And I feel like, because I'm a server at a restaurant, and I feel like a lot of people, the customers, they come in, they sit down, just start talking to me about their day, their family, stuff like that.
Interesting. So I mean, I say interesting because like you never know. Like I personally don't think that racism is as pervasive as the media makes it out to be. But then I heard I guys know this one guy who told me that he had neo Nazis harassing him and chasing him down and giving him death threats. And I'm like, maybe it is worse than what I thought, but from what I'm gathering, it's more often than not that people just have gone beyond that. I mean, racism has existed for a long time in this country, and of course, Georgia has its history with civil rights. Um, but I like living here. I mean, other than the bad reception I had when I came here in high school, for the most part, it's been pretty great. All right, so next, oh, let's go down here. So, this is kind of a personal question. You know, if you don't feel comfortable answering it, by all means, don't answer it. But I don't know if you guys are like like second generation immigrants, I guess would be the term. Was it your parents that came here first, or your grandparents?
For me, it was my parents.
Your parents?
Yeah, my mom and dad, I think they were both about 16, 17 when they came here. So they've
Okay.
been here probably for about 40 plus years.
All right, and Lewis?
I don't know the full detailed story, but from what I've overheard and seen, I believe my parents were first.
Okay.
And then my grandparents, they kind of tagged along with like, legal documentation for visiting for a few months, and then they just head back to their hometown on the other side. So I'm first. I'm first. Yeah, I think it's safe to say I'm first generation here.
Okay. Cool. So, and we'll give Eric a moment. So, what were their initial reactions? Have they ever told you about like what they felt like when they came here? I mean, the brief moments I spoke with your mom, I recall that she was pretty happy being here. Anything else that you might remember, or anything your dad might have commented on?
My father, he was, the head of the household in terms of the bread maker, and he had a little bit of like trouble with like coming up on understanding, expanding his vocabulary. And he told me when he was in Mexico, he would read Reader's Digest books in English, and he would, he would check up a dictionary or thesaurus and just basically look up as many words as he could to understand the differences in each word that he could not understand or he wasn't familiar with. So he's been a reader for all his life, basically. but biographies, everything. So that gave him a little bit of leverage. But when it came to interacting with people at the workplace, his limited vocabulary it pushed him back a bit, and also he has carpenter skills, electrical skills, whatever. But he ended up with like pretty easy entry jobs at the work facilities, like a cleaning person or just doing labor stuff when he first came here. And then he was given opportunities. He was given opportunities in the more complex workshops and automotive industry. And once his courage and grammar expanded both, he took over opportunities because he just wanted to make more money and help out his other brothers come here for visitation or whatever and find work. Some were successful, some were not. Most actually decided to go back. So language barrier, that was the number one conflict with both of my parents, but they took their time, and I think today they're pretty good. They're well off.
How about your parents' experience, Eric? Have they ever told you anything about their initial reactions, what was like to move here and cultural assimilation or culture shock?
They never really told me much about that. Pretty much just that they came here pretty much on their own and didn't really have any family or anyone to help them out, so they were doing it all on their own. They started off like doing small jobs. Like my dad had never been a mechanic, but I think he said he picked up a job there and started learning here and there. And then they actually ended up jumping into the construction business. And as far as a language barrier, my mom actually learned a lot better English than my dad did. Like right now, my dad understands it, but if you try to speak to him, you'll probably understand what he's saying, but it might not be great. Whereas my mom, she knows and speaks it, but with a really thick accent. But I think what really helped her out the most was us growing up, going to elementary school and learning English here, pretty much being at home, talking to each other in English. And then we just kind of got used to, she would talk to us in Spanish and we would respond in English. So that kind of helped her learn pretty much everything she needed to learn in English.
Now, so it's my understanding that Spain's attitude towards Puerto Ricans is that we speak bad Spanish because we speak in Spanglish. Is Spanglish a thing with you guys?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I don't. If anyone says anything, I'm like, well, the Mexicans too. So don't give me lip. It just comes naturally though. Like, I mean, I don't know if it happens to you guys, but like, I don't know if you draw a blank and then it's just like, well, let me just say it in Spanish. You'll understand what I'm saying. Does that happen to you guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you can respond in English, but you say it in Spanish anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally.
How about you, Eric?
Me, not so much, just because I got so used to speaking English. Like that's my main thing. So pretty much to where I speak English until I know someone doesn't know Spanish, then I'll switch over to Spanish to help them out.
Gotcha. So, and that brings another subject. How often would you have to serve as a translator for your relatives, and if at all, and if so, what was that like?
Well, definitely, I had to do it a lot. Well, not just me, my siblings as well. Growing up, pretty much bringing home papers from school and kind of trying to figure out what the paper says to explain to my parents, hey, you have to sign this, and they ask, well, what is it? So you got to try to figure out, oh, well, this says this or this says that.
The trust that it requires. I mean, I can only imagine how many sneaky things a kid could do with, especially with a school thing. It's like, sign this, and what does it say? Oh, I did a great job in school.
Yeah.
How about you, Louis?
Yeah, that school stuff, it didn't apply to me. They were literate in English, so I couldn't get away with anything. I rarely had to serve as a translator, except for the days the times where my grandma and grandpa, they would fly over here and they would sleep at our household. And whatever documentation that was in English, I would, my gosh, I would always struggle with translating, especially with not especially, but the fact that my grandmother, she was illiterate. She couldn't read. She never learned to read.
Oh, at all?
Not even pressing numbers on the phone.
Oh, wow.
So my grandpa, her husband, he would do all the reading for her and just fill out documentation and express, what this paper is entailing for her to do or whatever. From grocery coupon sheets to legal documentation. But for my case, I never really had to serve as a translator. Sometimes actually outside of the house. It happened last night actually at Walmart. Either she just didn't want to converse in English because she had a very thick accent. Maybe she was embarrassed to try to speak English. Maybe she knew how to speak English, but she just didn't bother.
It's really common, I've heard. Like from what I hear, Latinos say is that they just feel embarrassed about their accents or making a mistake with speaking English, and so they avoid it altogether. But we see now the results of what happens is that it's an unintentional segregation. What you were saying?
Yeah, I sometimes stumble on that too. If I cannot express, I prefer to fluently, with proper dialect and grammar, especially to say a statement in Spanish. If I cannot do it, where the information within what's needed to be translated, if it's critical, I'm not going to try to mess it up. If it's like kind of important information.
Yeah.
If it's a Spanglish situation, I just, can I cuss here? No. I just shoot the she, and do my best to.
Oh wait,
really.
There's swear words in my manuscript. What the hell am I saying? Yes, you can cuss.
Shoot the Shih Tzu. Yeah. Don't shoot dogs. Sorry.
I mean, we talked about war and death and starvation in the last episode. I mean, to think that this show's gonna be like super family friendly is asking too much. I mean, Treka was like, and those terrorists with those pubic hair beards, and I'm like, oh my god, Treka, oh my god. Now I can't go to Saudi Arabia. Not that I was planning to, but in the occasion, so now I can't go. If they see my videos, yeah, I'm not even gonna try. Okay, so this is another touchy subject, but unfortunately, there's subjects that are brought up when they mention our people, and I say our people because people don't even know that Puerto Ricans are different, as far as legally, and everybody's Mexican, so we all have to hear it. What is your opinion on cultural assimilation pertaining to issues like using the word American to describe yourself, or two, promoting English literacy among our people, or three, whether or not people decide to become a citizenship or just a legal resident? Cultural assimilation, okay, from Wikipedia. Cultural assimilation is the process in which a minority group or culture comes to resemble a society's majority group or assume the values, behaviors, and beliefs of another group. In other words, Americanizing. What's your view on that? In relation to using the word American, for example, a lot of Puerto Rican people don't like using the word American unless it's to prove somebody wrong. It's like, oh, we're American. Otherwise, they'll use the word American to describe white people.
Oh. I see. I never thought of that. I think it may vary by state and the density of population of Hispanics and Latinos, such as Chicago. There's a ton of Hispanics there.
Right.
And it's very different. It's very different. It could be influenced by the diversity of factors, the extreme weather conditions, the average income, pay grade. So it's like there are only so many stressors that you pay attention to, where you just take care of the family and not even bother with like the Americanization issue. Um, I mean, I'm not sure if this relates to it, but there's sometimes where I have relatives, so we have had friends come over here, gain citizenship, a work visa, whatever, and they gain a lot of weight because McDonald's, there's a restaurants at every corner. They
Yeah.
gain 80 pounds, 110 within 2 3 years. Maybe
Oh
not
my.
that extreme, but a good amount.
Wow.
And is that Americanizing themselves? Eating
Stop
McDonald's
it.
twice a
Stop
week?
it.
You know
Stop.
what? So there's so many avenues of being Americanized in some
Well,
way. I think there's
I
no
mean
way to escape it somehow.
that just took a turn that I didn't expect. I meant more like adopting an American identity, but I guess
American
that's
identity, where, well, everywhere you go, like, when you're driving and walking outside, there are restaurants and shops where they cater to specific.
Eric,
Sure.
what's your take on cultural assimilation? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
I mean, I feel like it's a good thing. Like, pretty much, it's gonna happen whether you want to or not. Like, you can be stubborn about it, but you're gonna end up acting like people around you are acting. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at some point, like even like uh, he was saying that there's some people that they could be here for 20 plus years and not learn full sentences, but
Right.
whether they want to or not, there's going to be some words that they pick up that they are going to know.
Huh. I never thought of it that way as like involuntary, because let me tell you, like young or old, like the Puerto Ricans here in Rochester, a lot of them um refuse to assimilate and speak English. They're like, no, translate it in Spanish. English is not the official language of the United States. I'm like, it doesn't have to be. Everyone speaks English, and like if you want to communicate, um, so what's your take? So do you encounter that a lot, or?
I mean, not really. Like, I feel like working in a restaurant, there are a lot of people that don't speak much English, but I feel most of them are trying to at least learn enough to communicate with the people they need to communicate.
Okay.
I think
That.
I think it's a choice. There's some people who surprisingly they could get away with living a good life without learning English fully.
Really?
I believe so. They just work at facilities and manufacturing plants where a majority of the workers are Vietnamese, Korean, um, Thai. They always find a way. They always have networks.
Interesting. I mean, you know what? I think it's possible. Actually, yes, it is possible. I remember, he probably like what Eric said, that he probably picked up a couple words. I think he did. There's this Dominican guy, and we talked about this in I think it's episode 4. Dominican Americans and how super business oriented they are. And like this guy was at he took like probably his third or fourth loan at the nonprofit that I work for, and he was like legit illiterate. Like he couldn't even write his name, but he had such good standing credit wise with the agency that whenever he asked for a loan, they gave it to him, thousands and thousands of dollars. And I'm like, he's illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't want to hear it because I mean he was a few shades darker than me, and when people say, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say, when people say white privilege, I'm like, illiterate Dominican guy probably has better credit than you do.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, ladies, Lewis's credit score is quite large. It's in the 700s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I had to throw it out there because it's true. Like, and on that note, like you're trying to build yourself up in a non-conventional way, and your character in universe in my book is the same way. In that you just find a way, and it really is reflective of our heritage. Because I mean, even though we come from different countries per se, that struggle for the American dream and just doing whatever to make a living for yourself that you can be proud of. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of shocking to think how well. I'll ask this question: has that ambition died out among the Latinos in your area, Eric?
I don't think so. Like for everyone I see, they're always trying to think of a way to move on up and what their next step is going to be. And like I said, like at least try to learn some English to where they can get to that next step.
How about you, Louis? Do you see that? Has the ambition died out, or is it like still strong in the Latinos in your area?
I noticed that they have gotten maybe a bit soft. To be honest, the '90s were a completely
I
different
figured.
era, and I think with us, Latino community, we like to have a very comfortable life.
We
It can be
do.
addicting. So many
Hmm.
outlets of technology, streaming services, uh, the sound system at the house,
That's true. What I don't know how,
and
or like it's like a law. Every Latino family, no matter what income level, has to have a very loud sound system. I never understood that rule, but I guess everybody had that
well,
experience.
I think it first started off with the mother wanting a good sound system for when she cleans on Saturday at 7 a.m.,
Yup.
blasting her cumbias and stuff, so
Oh,
that
I love
it could
cumbia.
be a breeze to clean the house for the next 4 to 6 hours.
Mm.
Laundry, cooking, this and that. So that's how she relieves that. That's how she counterbalances her stress. And it's go time. And you do not mess with her playlist. You don't turn the volume. Let her do her thing. Let her shout and scream.
Ah,
Terrible American Idol wannabe,
oh
yelling
my
and all that
God.
stuff. And just let her be. And you better
My
do what she says.
my
Or
grandma would my
yeah,
grandma would take some of those songs and she would try to throw shade. Like there was one song, I don't know who sang it, and it's like, no me importa que la gente no me quiere, no me importa que la gente me
yeah,
desprecia. And I'm like,
yeah.
stop, drama queen. I love my
Especially love
grandma.
songs.
Probably. And I mean, you know what? I probably deserve that. If she sang that now, like I would deserve that and I would slap myself. But not back then. Like I would visit her every weekend, so I don't know what she's talking about. Um. So okay. So well, I mean, I expected California, like the California Latinos, to be much more lax because I mean BuzzFeed, that you have the BuzzFeed Latinos in that area, and it's like they're like I'm not gonna opine on them. I'm not gonna opine on them. I just know that they are Americanized like to the fullest. Um, and not very ambitious because they're the ones that are
Yeah.
whining about white privilege.
And
Um, go ahead.
can I finish with
Yeah.
that statement?
All right.
I don't think most can get a little sedated with the comfortable tools, especially as technology progresses. But there are definitely the households where they prioritize education a lot because maybe the income is not that great and they could apply for scholarships,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be tremendously helpful for the kids who are wanting to be marine biologists, architects, um, what's it called, civil engineers,
Mm-hmm.
and they take it seriously. So the
Mm.
parents, they will sacrifice to get a second job or whatever in order for that one only son or only daughter, the
Mm.
eldest child, to succeed. They will sacrifice so much of it. And then there's like the other community where they just don't really prize academic performance. They just go on about in life a little too leisure, and one of them might have a kid too soon, early in age or whatever, and it's kind of a free for all. So
Hmm.
it's really a choice, and I think it really comes down to uh, uh, the father. The father is the sole definer and commander of the household. His choices, his words, everything is radiates to the rest of the household. He needs to be a good leader. And I think this is a little theory, how the rest of the people in the house live for the rest of their lives. It was influenced by how the father operated the household. So there's a lot of accountability for men, especially in the Latino community in the houses. There's a lot.
And this question wasn't like not on the script, like most of the last questions. But that brings up a very interesting thing, because I can imagine already either the very Western Latinos or the American people that might be listening, they think patriarchy, and just like really like triggered by the idea of or the concepts that you put out there. But I mean, that's our culture. I mean, Eric, do you have anything to add on to that? Like, what's your view on the role of the Latino male in the family versus American culture?
No, I mean, he was pretty spot on. Like, usually the male is the one going out and doing the work, and typically the females are stay-at-home moms, raising the kids.
I mean, and I would assume that someone listening would be like, oh my God, like that's just so oppressive. But did you, like, either of you, because my mom was also a homemaker for a while before my parents divorced, but did you guys see your moms like, no, I'm not happy with that situation, or like, were they happy with that situation? Like, what was the dynamic?
Well, for me, I mean, like I said, most families, the dad's the one doing that. But my mom, before they got separated, my parents were pretty much a team. They, my mom would go and learn all the construction stuff to be helping out, and pretty much they started their own construction company. She was doing all the finances, driving them around, helping out any way she could to help make the business grow.
Gotcha.
So she didn't really like staying home much.
Well, that's what you get for assuming. You make an ass out of you and me. Well, that is you know what, and this, so there's that consistent theme that both you guys put out there, that entrepreneurial mindset. That's pretty cool. Self-reflection. Is it just coincidence that both of you guys have entrepreneurial mothers, or is it like a thing that still lives today in the Mexican American community?
I think when you're trying to make a lot of traction as soon as possible to make money, you'll do just about anything. And building a business, especially a business where you can hand it down to your offspring when they are responsible and old enough to take over, that's a route, an option. And my mother was a homemaker for a few years, but then she got severely bored and had postpartum depression after my sister's birth, when she was born, I meant. And she wanted to work somewhere. And it was double win because, my father was struggling a lot with the mortgage payments. And so she didn't mind, she made some money first with like babysitting other people's kids. And then she found a position at a local elementary school lunch lady, whatever. She would take in the tickets or dollars so that kids would buy their breakfast or lunch, whatever. And so in terms of traditional roles, I think there was a little hiccup with her within our household. She didn't really like to be at home. She felt stranded, stuck, alone. And because of financial strains, my father, he wasn't really that selfless with finances. They were a little tight, and he was kind of oblivious of my mother's sanity. She could barely, afford a couple of bus rides a week. So she utilized what we made as a household from my father solely to visit my grandmother. And that was our form of entertainment, and little handouts from my dad to her. She would utilize that money for local drugstore, which they had cosmetics and little trinkets of everything, toys.
CVS. Every mother goes to CVS.
Yeah, the one we went to mainly was called Drug Emporium. I'm not sure if there's any existing stores nationwide, but I remember the store. They had VHS tapes. That was my gold mine.
Stop
There was a
it.
huge wall of VHS tapes. The last movie that I bought from there, was that she bought from me, I think it was priced at $15. I can't believe I remember the price. It was Godzilla. It was like the whatever 1999 2000
Oh my
Godzilla
god.
movie. Yeah.
That
So
was the ugly Godzilla, the one with the ugly snout.
yeah. I watched the movie countless times. I actually, for some reason, I like the movie a lot.
I did not enjoy it. Well, you know what? I enjoyed it more than the other ones. I'm lying. All right. So onto the subject of cultural perceptions, because people love to assume a lot of things about us, and I just made an assumption that all our moms were homemakers. So even much more so, people who aren't as exposed to Latino cultures and Mexican culture in particular. There's way too many narratives in the country, I think, from a third point perspective. It's like, you talk about them a lot. I hope you know a couple in your life and aren't just like talking for them. But yeah, like I like to talk about cultural perception, because a lot of times what people perceive as racism is actually just born out of lack of exposure or misunderstandings. And so this is really the part where we try to break those things down and like clarify things for people who are watching. So Eric, first, what on the subject of cultural perception, so what do you think people in general think when they hear the word Mexican?
I feel like in general they think of a third world country just because usually the media, that's what they portray it as.
Mm-hmm.
Like people still living in like huts made of clay or something.
My God.
Yeah, but I mean in reality it's a really well developed country. Like obviously there are still some parts of the country that might still be somewhat like that, but that's definitely not what Mexico is. Mexico is well developed and yeah, I mean it's definitely not what people think it is.
It is the entertainment capital of Latin America, and well, other than Venezuela, once upon a time, rest in peace, and Colombia. But Mexico is definitely like the entertainment capital of Latin America, so that makes sense to me. How about you, Louis? What do you think? People, what comes to mind to people when they hear the word Mexican?
It really depends on what stories they heard from their peers, where they've traveled to. Some people, they actually are somewhat familiar with the history and the culture, and they appreciate a lot. I'm not sure what percentage of people uh, admire a lot, the foods, the culture, the family dynamics, but
Hmm.
from like stereotyping, I think some actually fall in that scope of actually they realize, we are hardworking individuals, most of us, for the most part. But for those ignorant ones that really don't like to associate or even want to know more about the Hispanic community, I would say, um, I don't know, pictures, glimpses of people hanging out at Home Depot, uh, lots of people working at an Italian restaurant, sweating their butts off, making dishes for us, for the rest of the people. Um, car wash folks, gardeners.
Oh my God.
It's all assumptions. That's the dangerous side of assumptions. You come up with assumptions. You stay stuck with that details. Your mind is not going to want to expand further from that.
Mhm.
And so, just like how I mentioned in the past with other conversations that we had, there's so many benefits to traveling alone. the sole fact of traveling in general. Go to different parts of counties outside of your radius. Go to the states next door. You'll get exposure of all sorts, all sorts. And for the people that, I haven't asked that question myself amongst, like, let's say Caucasians here. So I wouldn't really know what their perspective of us is like. But from my very faint experiences in the past, some have come up with very disturbing and stereotypical assumptions, and the others actually respect us and admire us, our culture and food and everything else.
Well, the food is bomb, of course. Oh my goodness. I lied. Um, honestly, that is surprising because it when I see, for example, I'm really ragging on them on BuzzFeed, but like when you see the way they describe things, it's like so much negativity, and you just ask yourself,
Yep.
where do you live?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I mean, I'm not casting doubt, but I wonder how much is it a perception thing, like, because you guys seem to like not encounter it as much. I don't feel like it's as bad as it used to be for me. I wonder if it's a mindset or if it's like they really just are unlucky and just they find all the rapists. What do you think?
Repeat that last statement.
So do you think
The very
that
last
they?
sentence.
Well, you're asking a guy with ADHD, so we'll be lucky if I remember. Eric, did you remember what I just said?
You said no.
That makes three of us.
I need to ask shorter questions.
No, it's okay. I think it's kind of my fault for, like, not eating properly. I ate something. Anyways.
So, well, answer whatever you recall, because the more I laughed, the more I forgot.
Same. It'll come around. Oh gosh, the viewers like me, like, what? Seriously?
Yeah. Well, it's late, but yeah.
It's not that late. Yeah.
Well, in California, I'm on the East Coast, dude. So I guess moving on. Oh no, I remember now. So, like I said, the BuzzFeed Latinos that are always like, "Oh my God, there's so much racism around here."
Oh yeah, so negative. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so negative, and like they have like the worst experiences that they recount, and like I remember when they said, "What do you think when you hear the word white?" And like it was like they were gonna cry. I'm like, "Oh my God," and it's like, but what you guys are expressing is like it's not that bad. So what do you think is going on? Do you think it's that they just live around really horrible people, or is it like a mindset?
It could probably be both, to be honest. As I said, you get a first impression that was very disturbing, whatever, and you no longer ever want to associate with that demographic or people in general. So they were probably triggered by some scenario, whatever, and they just don't want to deal with that later. They don't want to encounter it ever after.
That you know what? First impressions, and I think that plays such a huge role in all race relations, because yeah. So Eric, what's your perspective on that?
No, yeah, pretty much what he said. Like once I feel like even if it isn't a first impression thing, like maybe but once it happens for the first time, like it probably like kind of sets it off, and then you kind of get scared next time, and you're not sure what's going to happen with the next encounter.
Right.
But I feel like it's more mindset though. I feel like it's more of if you go out looking for it, you're going to see it more. Whereas if you kind of don't really think about it, don't really see yourself any different, then I feel like you're not really going to be seeing it as much.
You know, that's really key what you just said. If you don't see yourself that way, I honestly, in my experience, once I let go, because I had that mentality. Like I was like those BuzzFeed Latinos. I'm like, everybody's racist. I went to like the country club of colleges, and like almost like 80% of them were white, particularly Italian, and a lot of them were wealthy. And I'm like, oh my God, they're looking down on me. Oh my God, and it's like once I let go of that, it's like I don't really see racism like that. But my brother, when he went to college, and he went to a more rural city near Rochester, and he's like, when I walk around, the white people are just give you dirty looks, and I'm like, what is wrong with that city? Or is it that my brother, because he did say that his friends were particularly uncomfortable, and I'm like, I wonder how much that plays a role. Like if it was just one bad experience. I mean, I don't know, but I think it's like what Lewis said. It's a bit of both.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like maybe a little bit of a group think. They react
mhm,
this way. Oh, I should react the same. And
true.
every demographic or people, they have their insecurities, and the more
Mm,
you focus on insecurities, the more it's going to just ripple throughout the rest of your life in some way. Just like the more you pay attention to being expressive of uh, feeling gratitude and being an optimistic person, you're more likely to stumble upon or counter good
mhm,
solutions in just about everything. Negative people, they think negative things, they speak negative things, they brag too much, whatever, and they don't really level up their lives. So it's a mindset thing, and the importance of self-esteem is critical. Um, it could be a definer of really bad or really great things.
hmm.
No, nobody to showing that nobody really cares about you except for the few individuals who you support, and vice versa. You go to the gym, nobody's really paying much attention to you.
It's so
Same
true.
applies to society.
So true.
Yeah.
Um, that might have helped somebody like live peacefully for the rest of their lives now. Because I think you're really onto something. But before we get even more sidetracked, the conversation is good. So many people, again, it's really inflammatory. I'm sorry, guys. So I apologize in advance for all these questions, but we got to break some stereotypes. So many people think that Mexicans are all immigrants, and actually, people think that all Latinos are all immigrants. Like I get the immigrant talk all the time, and so they also think
Hmm.
that all Latinos are illegal, and that's the only way that Latinos have gotten here. So they're like, oh, so and so is going to deport you, and I'm like, no, he's not. But yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
name names, but but that's what the media has instigated. Like the again, like I've said in prior episodes, particularly the one with Traeger, like when they want to mention our people, it's like kids in cages, and like that's all they bring up. And
Yeah.
oh, you're gonna get deported. That's all they bring up. So what's your take on that? Like what do you want to? What is your response to that, Eric?
Um, I mean, I feel like that is something a lot of people do think, but I feel like you said it's mainly because of the media. That's what they portray, and that's what people see on TV. So that's what they think. So I feel like it's more the media portraying that than it is people actually thinking that themselves.
Hmm.
I second that. It brings up like 90% of their mental narrative of what they assume about us. And even my own stereotypical vision of that wording, it's like they see us as like, cockroaches infiltrating a territory, and then like the cops, Department of uh, Immigration, whatever, they're like the pest control. And it's like, and for the people, they're like, no, let them be, let them roam around, this and that. They're not hurting anybody. They're just looking for something to eat. The hell, you
That
know?
condescending attitude,
Uh
that
huh.
savior complex, like I don't, it bothers me. Like and like
Almost like we're pests.
or pets.
Pests, like
No,
roaches.
I know. I didn't say
Or
pets,
pets, yeah.
but both really.
Gotcha.
Like,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Like, do you? I'm projecting, but do you guys get that like pet minority treatment from people who try not to be racist and instead are actually more racist? Or am I being paranoid now?
No, I think there used to be a time where it was like really much like that. Maybe it fluctuates. Maybe it's almost like a trend that comes and goes. A trending thought.
Oh, but
knows?
basically, like the way you said it, it kind of still makes like sense metaphorically, like wear a trendy purse or something that they can just carry around or something.
Yeah, right. And I think that type of description for us is it only comes around when it benefits somebody, when it benefits
Ooh.
someone who is trying to get a hold of a seat in the house of a representative, whatever. So it's like they're trying to like what's that term, like bait and switch, or like they're just trying to
Oh, the pander.
there you go, like pander almost. And in my opinion, I don't think it's healthy to do that at all. We try to be, we are grown-ups. We want to be self-sufficient, independent as much as possible. And I think it's not healthy to talk to people as if they are delinquents, or like to train them to leech off resources of the government or whatever agencies to make our lives a little simpler. And I think they should really stop doing that, and just there should be just constant talks about work ethic, commitment, just being a responsible person, and not bring up ever the narratives, not ever, but like suppress as much as possible, like the pandering to the victim mindset or whatever else, because victim mindset, it can be very dangerous. It can infiltrate to the grand masses, depending on how chronic, how long you stick with that story. I mean, I'm touching many tangents on this.
Well,
It's just not healthy.
To give it a little shape, so when people express that pandery, like that low expectations thing, or that treatment that we just spoken on, like how does that make you feel? Like when they're like with that savior complex, I should say.
A little bit inferior, to be honest. And with us, I believe, in my opinion, I'm not sure what Eric thinks about this. With us, Hispanics and Latinos, we're much more kind of easily malleable, more influenced easily, depending on what the situation is. So what I'm trying to say is, we kind of almost agree with too quick and too much with people who feel sorry for us.
I have seen that.
I think that's kind of a cousin of the victim mindset. We want to
Yes.
associate with people who kind of, in some way, care for us, and so we just agree with them so that we have some type of so that we can agree with their virtue signaling of the fact that they care about us. Because we want to be represented much more in some aspect within the Hispanic community. We just want to be looked at as
equals?
Responsible people, equals, basically. Yeah. So it's almost like propaganda that they sometimes push out, and unfortunately it works for the weak-minded and the emotionally weak.
I didn't say
And
that.
I don't think that's healthy.
Eric, what are your thoughts on the pandering and the savior complex?
I mean, I feel like he was spot on. Like it works because I mean, like he said, we are susceptible to it, and in general. Pretty much they believe what they hear. Again, the media, they believe what they hear. One person says this, oh, this person said this about us, this person said that, so
Yeah.
obviously they're not, they don't care about you, but you should listen to this other person because they're gonna help you out. They're gonna provide this for you. They're gonna give you this. Pretty much, kind of be helping us and like you said, take care of us and
No one's gonna turn away a helping hand. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
you'll take it as a neighborly
There you go.
thing.
Yeah.
But then I feel, and I might be projecting, but something tells me that there's almost like this perverse and not intentional, but like it really is kind of this perverse. And there's like I'm such a good person. Like I feel so helpful that I help those brown people over there. Like I've done my good deeds for the day. Like that's how I envision it. I'm not trying to be like ungrateful or anything, because you know what? When I came here, like dirt broke, like we couldn't even pay for our plane tickets to come here. So we needed a lot of help when we came here. But I do see that there is a lot of using of our people as props or as propaganda, as Lewis
Yeah.
said. Do you guys get a lot of the deportation threat, or do people bring that up to you guys too?
For me, no. I've never been vocalized that or
And get off
insulted.
Facebook then.
Yeah, it's a Facebook thing. That's where it lives.
Eric, help me. Is it really just me, or have you heard anybody say that?
No, I've never been told that ever.
Damn it! So it's just me.
I
It's
guess
just
so.
me. And
It's just Facebook, right?
the least likely race that you would think that typically says those types of things to me. I'm not gonna say. But it's really like, is that your vision of me? Like, number one, I'm not Mexican, but the fact that when you think of Latinos, you think of those very demeaning things, you're messed up. You're not being very helpful. And what about the assumptions on like legal status? Like people, for some reason, cannot distinguish between legal and illegal immigration, or some people think there's no such thing as illegal immigration. But you guys mentioned like paperwork being filed, family members have paperwork being filed. Like, can you speak to that subject particularly? When people bring up immigration, because they express this mindset that all Hispanic people are illegal immigrants and they cannot distinguish between legal and illegal immigrants. And from what you guys expressed earlier, you guys talked about how your families all filed paperwork and went through a process. Like, so how do you feel when someone makes those assumptions?
I mean, I feel like for the most part, they're not completely wrong. Like there are still a lot of people that do come here illegally, but at the same time, there are some people that do it legally. They do the paperwork. They come here the correct way. There's also people with work visas, which a lot of people don't understand. They're allowed to come over here to work and then go back.
Everybody thinks that everybody is like an asylum seeker. I'm like, you must not know many people that have come here, have you? Like,
I second what he said. It's just such a negative thing to say and assume. Most residents of this country do not have a passport, and so they will know much less about, like, the immigration details on processing oneself to be allowed to work at a, just across the other side, and because they don't do the research. That's simple. They're not curious enough. They don't care enough about knowing how the system works.
I feel they want to use us as a talking point. Again, harping on BuzzFeed. And it's not that I hate them, it's just see how they portray our people out there. And I'm like, you're not telling everybody's story. You're not speaking for all of us.
Right.
And so I see a lot of them expressing subtle or even overt dislike towards America.
I feel like, well, me personally, I don't feel that at all. But I feel like in general, it's not really a dislike. It's, I mean, once again, the media, the way they portray everything, and the negative stuff going on, they kind of focus on that and show that to on like the Spanish broadcasting. They pretty much
Yes.
on that and pretty much just show them all that, hey, these people are against you. They're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. So I feel like it's more because of that than anything else.
I have seen people like within our parents or grandparents generation that will try to reinforce that notion that they're out to get you.
Yep.
And it's like, I'm aware that there was a period in time where racism was very prevalent in this society, but like I feel like they keep it alive, and so they've conditioned their kids to think that it's lurking in every corner.
I decided to stop watching the news entirely. It's just mostly gibberish, and if something is important enough, somebody will tell me personally. That's what I go off of it. You know, the media just misconstrues so many things amongst every topic: climate change, immigration, this and that, everything.
How can we help the general American population and the world understanding better? How can we dismantle these stereotypes?
Stop watching the news.
Yeah, definitely. Actually looking stuff up on your own, and like he said, it's more of a knowledge thing, wanting to know what you're actually talking about other than just going off of what one person told you or what the news and the media are telling you.
I think it like, and it's crazy because we would think that that's like the logical thing to do, but I feel like there's so many people that just don't have that healthy amount of skepticism and just.
That's number one for me. Number two would be to learn the other people's language and actually have conversations with the other party. That's simple.
You mean like our people going to other people and introducing ourselves and learning their culture?
That's simple.
You know what? I think you probably angered a lot of people and like you shocked their world, because a lot of our people want to be catered to.
Catered to? No, you can extend beyond that. Instead of catering, how about you understand that other families work around amongst the work life that they do. Like for my case, I've grown a little fond of my Middle Eastern community here, and I've been catching up. You know, it was very brief that I was taking Arabic classes, and whenever I recognize someone, sometimes I do assume I might have.
We look too similar.
I might express, marhaban, assalamu alaikum, because it's a very dense population here of Muslims.
I didn't see it.
And I'm curious about their work ethic, how very close they are with family matters, and I appreciate that. The more I want to, understand them, I want to have some type of similarity to them. So that could be as simple as greeting expressions. And you never know where it can lead from that.
I hear a lot of Latinos that want, let's say, white people to do all the work and to learn everything about us and like appreciate us, respect us. But you're probably the first person I've heard that said, why don't we take the initiative and say hi to the neighbors, so to speak?
Yep. I mean, something else I could bring up that this is going to sound stupid. Something as simple as a Caucasian going to, they picked up the little Spanglish narrative, two tacos, por favor, con asada, mucho chile, mucho chile. And the other party in the kitchen, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, what else? ¿Qué va a ser su bebida? What's going to be your drink? Horchata, please, por favor, whatever. And so it kind of fluctuates. They stumble upon some people, they're sometimes playful when they interact with the Spanish speakers, whatever, and vice versa. And so you admire that other person for either playing around or deliberately appreciating them for intentionally trying to express a Spanish conversation. And then there's those I'm sure that demographic of Caucasians or other races who don't have the curiosity at all to go to a taqueria or a carniceria or any place where they cater to Mexican dishes or
They're
Mexican
missing
way
out.
of. They're missing out completely, dude, and that's why I express the importance of traveling. Go
Mhm.
to the next county, the next state, go on the opposite side of the country to expose yourself to the miserable weather or the awesome weather, the driving habits, uh, what animals cross the road. Oh my God, Florida has raccoons and alligators and crabs,
Hell no.
throughout the year, and you just run them over. Probably, I don't know. So it's like such a different exposures of scenarios that you got to expose yourself to, and so to really wash out all that bad narrative amongst races, you just have to walk into their shop. You have to go into Little Italy, Little Tokyo, Chinatown, whatever.
Yeah, you destroyed a lot of people's narrative, and you just put the responsibility on them. And thank
Because
you,
they don't want
because I
to.
didn't have to do it.
Yeah, they don't want to. They're scared of embarrassing themselves, probably. And they are misconstruing that emotion with something very, very negative. And it's not supposed to be that way. They're
Right.
just scared of trying.
I think that a lot of unity can be made by just taking that initial step. What do you think of the phrase cultural appropriation? Do you think it's a thing? How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's a thing, but I don't think it's like a negative thing. I feel like that's someone kind of like he was saying, try making an effort, trying to actually connect with somebody that is different to them, maybe trying to see what makes them different or what could bring them even closer together to actually see what those people are like other than like for themselves other than from what they've heard or what they're supposed to think.
All the people I've interviewed, the answer's been consistent. They don't care. Like they're actually honored that someone would make the effort. I haven't had one person yet all around the world, and I'll keep asking this question from everybody because I think that such a concept has divided America more than it already is, artificially, because I don't know many people who get offended unless they're taught to be offended. I mean, let's go in the context where apparently it was born. So it was born supposedly out of Halloween costumes. So if somebody wears a poncho or a taco suit or a sombrero and a fake mustache, like
And I would just think it's funny.
You described my same exact costume that I had in high school. I came in with a
stop.
sombrero. I'm not kidding. I wore sandals. I came in with a poncho, some raggedy pants, and a huge like Pancho Villa mustache. I'm not kidding. Like ammunition. Like I was Pancho Villa, just ready to take over
I'm
a village.
done.
Yeah. So that was my
Well,
costume in high
actually,
school.
how do they react? I'm sure. I
They
mean,
they
when was
laughed. They
this?
liked it.
Okay. Well, when was this? Like, what year?
I was a year, probably 08, 09.
Okay. So it was still like, kind of like the millennial era. So
Yeah.
did any Caucasians in the room get uncomfortable?
But maybe. Yep. They just kind of looked away or smirked, tried not to smirk. And my teacher was white, and I think she
Poor
just said,
thing.
"Oh, cool. Yeah. Right."
See,
And
and this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't like that academia particularly has put them in this position because, like, no one that I've met personally has an issue with it unless it's blackface. Blackface is bad no matter what.
it's weird that we celebrate somehow like Cinco de Mayo, and so many white people, they just feel obligated to wear a sombrero and just shoot down tequilas and tacos at a bar. Um,
I'm dead. Because that kind of is in that realm. I didn't even think about asking about that. So
yeah, it's like they like to celebrate that occasion and they're the same ones that really like some Mexican cuisines and Taco Bell at times, and
Oh man,
but
you
but
said
they don't
Taco
like
Bell.
to associate or be seen around authentic, Mexican folks. They kind of mistreat them or whatever. I might be wrong, but I just don't understand the obsession amongst the American culture with like Cinco de Mayo. And
Right. It's really colorful. I guess
there,
the colors get to them and the food. I mean, it's a good excuse to eat Mexican food. I mean, I don't need an excuse. I
yeah,
just need to be available.
it seems like they just like any holidays that gives them the excuse to drink and celebrate
That's
in general.
funny. That's true. That's true. Because here in Rochester, there's a sizable enough Irish population, but on
Yep.
St. Patrick's Day, everybody's
Oh yeah.
Irish.
And
So
Oktoberfest is huge here too.
not here, even though we have some Germans, but
No, I mean, I was about to say it before you did. It's just a reason to drink for them, so that's why I feel like it's so.
Yeah.
So on to the pop culture segment, because it's not just doom and gloom, even though it feels like that on my podcast sometimes. But we do like to talk about pop culture. I mean, I'm writing a fantasy novel. I'm not writing a tragedy. Telenovelas, like they're a big part of, I think, every Latino household. Is that a correct assumption? Did you guys grow up with telenovelas? And what was
Hardcore.
that like?
Yep. For me, yeah. Quick answer.
Definitely like I said, growing up, my parents started their own construction company, but I remember my mom would be like racing home as soon as we were done working. She had to get home at a certain time because this telenovela is about to be on, so she needs to see what happens next.
And what's interesting is they can be so like formulaic and cookie cutter, and it's like the plot already. So it's like, but still they hook you somehow.
I just don't understand. I mean, there's something within the female nature that they love the intense. Wait, hey. I've encountered also some guy at the gym when I was like 14. He was in the gym lockers, and he's like, "Oh, I got to go home. I'm gonna watch my novela." But literally, he was like this big muscle guy. He couldn't wait to get home after his gym session to watch the novela. So I thought that was a funny.
There you go.
Random story. Yeah. So I did grow up with that. Just countless episodes and actors appearing in 10 different shows in the span of like 10, 15 years or whatever.
They're so recycled.
Countless scenes of slow motion car rollovers and hospitalization scenes. And just like falling off a balcony on a glass table.
Yes!
And just a lot of slapping, cheating, whatever. Yes. I just don't understand why people like that stuff.
Way too many sex scenes for a child to watch.
Yeah.
For the most part, I feel like I didn't really pay too much attention to it.
No, this was actually something that I enjoyed because it was about a young girl who she was, I believe, abandoned by one of her parents. And it was a very touching series. And even though I didn't understand most of the language, she was such an amazing actor, and how it transitioned with the visualization of that series, I kind of understood along based on the actor's face and whatever. I resonated a lot with like the story. I grew kind of attached to the plots and whatever. And the title was Luz Clarita. Luz Clarita. Yeah, that was the one.
No one sang the cheesy song that goes with it.
Luz Clarita.
I remember that one. That's 1996,
something
I guess,
like that.
Era, 95 maybe. Yeah. I remember it.
It was early.
Yes, I think everyone has a memory of her. But on that subject, when I was forced to learn Spanish, when my family moved to Puerto Rico, like I found that telenovelas were the best teacher. That and humiliation in school. What did you guys use to learn Spanish? Was it your mom's telenovelas or what?
For me personally, my father took us to a lot of relatives' house, and that made me immensely patient and a great listener. He would have conversations with Spanish-speaking households for up to 6, 8, 10 hours at a time.
Oh my God.
And there were and
True.
that was a little bit, analogy-wise, that was a little bit of an imprisonment method for me to just be a great listener and just overall enjoy conversations and
Okay.
pay attention to how they pronounce certain things, under what emotion.
You know
Under the
what? I was surprised because I've seen a good amount of Latinos that are born here but can't get the accent down packed. And it's like, when I heard you, I was like, I hear you complain like way too much about your Spanish, and I'm like, it's not really that bad. Like, it sounds pretty authentic.
right. Sometimes I half-ass it.
But still, like when I hear some Latinos that are born here and they sound like they're a white person, and I don't mean like in a derogatory sense. I'm just saying like because I mean, yes, some of the way the vowels sound, like if you're not used to making those sounds, like it can be difficult. But like I don't even know how to explain that phenomenon really. So music. You talked about cumbia and how it's associated with mom's cleaning. Any other types of music really popular among Mexican American families?
I think back then it was hot with like Daddy Yankee and
What? Really?
I don't know. And like at some households they would there's always that one or two obsessed with like what's it called? Like those, I don't know. I don't want to batter and misuse this terminology, like lowrider tunes and just like romantic oldies and slow dance songs. I don't know. So the question was like, what songs do they like? They make the Mexican American
what genres?
Genres. It could be kind of diverse, but if it's like a first generation child growing up in the household of migrated parents, it's just Los Bukis.
I don't know who that is.
Dude, that's big.
Really?
Los Bukis is like the band where, dude, that guy was a master at writing love songs with a good beat.
You're gonna have to send me
that slaps hard video sometimes. Oh yeah, I believe he's still alive.
Okay, I will put it on the page.
Yeah, and there's other families who they like it. Vicente Fernandez, Juan Gabriel. So I think it depends on what personality of the household kind of dominates the playlist and the overall music choice. They kind of train other people to love a certain artists because the moms would blast the music on a Saturday morning, whatever.
Yeah.
Each household, each American Hispanic household has kids that remembers a certain artist or certain songs.
Yes.
And then believe it or not, they will carry on that tradition of sometimes once in a while listening to those songs.
Yes.
And that will bring back extreme euphoria at times.
Yes.
If you postpone listening to that song for a while, you listen to it again, like Selena songs. He's just like, oh my gosh, it's been 6 months since I heard that song, and you just get so into the mood. You save it for a party. You take 4 shots of vodka and you're just yelling your lungs out at certain songs or whatever. Okay, Shock Tops, White Claw, whatever flows with you.
White Claw, you're getting worse.
I don't care. So I never tasted it.
You really assimilated. Like, I'm not shaming you for it, but I thought you would have said
It's
tequila con
marketed
flor or
heavily
something.
here.
Huh?
It's marketed heavily here. Blame the marketing. They do a fantastic job. They have literally walls of White Claw at every supermarket.
Ah,
Literally,
I'm not
like
gonna
3 feet
lie.
tall.
I'm not gonna lie. Jocelyn did give me a white claw, and I'm like, I'm not gonna buy it, but since you gave it to me, I'll drink it. Not a fan, but at least I tried one. Um, that's funny. So whoever mourned Selena's death, say I.
Who?
I say, come on, I'm not the only one. Selena, you didn't mourn her
Oh,
death.
Oh, I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, I was little when that
I was
happened.
just dramatic then.
I mean, I didn't really know much about her history up until years, when Univision or Telemundo would announce a little documentary. It's been
Mm-hmm.
5 years, it's been 10 years, it's been 20 years since
Yes.
she's passed. And
Yes.
that's each time you expose to that little documentary, you learn more and more, based on what you didn't really pick up on the last um, documentary that showed years ago. Just like Disney movies, you understand movies different from when you were 6 versus 16 and 26. You watch it over and over again, and you're like, wow, this is a dark movie, or, this is much more hilarious of a movie
Yeah.
than what I remember.
Selena was an icon. Selena was the voice of a generation. She was probably what brought all Latin America together because I don't know a Puerto Rican who doesn't love Selena. And I think all our moms, well, I assumed all our moms play Selena on Saturdays, but apparently it's Vicente Fernandez and not her. Eric saved me. Is my mom the only one who listens to Selena?
no, my mom was definitely interested in us. She told me she went to one of her concerts actually.
Damn,
Yeah.
I'm
Wow.
jealous. There's, of course, a current push in media to make every Caucasian character a different version of that same character as a person of color, or handing the title to a person of color, and just retiring the white character completely. Um, so, of course, you guys are characters in my book. Um, but what do you think about that push for diversity in media? Like, is it something you want? Is it something you like?
I mean, I'm all for the diversity, but I like you just described when they pretty much say you got to change this character from white to black or Hispanic or whatever. I feel like that's not right. I feel like if we want representation, we should make it ourselves. We shouldn't change a character that's already been established just to try to make everyone else happy.
I think that America Chavez, for example, she was created by a Latina, and she kind of inspired my character Eva. Not completely, but a little bit. But she's I think a very good Latina character.
Before answering that, America Chavez, was she the one who played Betty La Fea?
No, what?
That was
Wait,
Angelica Vale, I think.
no, that isn't
That
America.
was her first name, though, right?
America
America?
Ferrera.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah, but no, America
gotcha.
Chavez. She's a superhero in the Marvel universe now. She's one of the newer
Oh,
ones. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, so with the constant push with like diversity and stuff, for me personally, it's been pushed too far to the point where I don't care anymore.
Really?
I don't want to pay attention to it. No, I just care about, work, food, sleep, and having a good
Well,
chat and laugh with my friends
because you are
of
a big
various
bat.
races.
So you are a big Batman fan. So did you ever think, well, I wish Batman looked more like me, or
Not really, to be honest. I just that's a good thing that you brought up, because that show was so well written, and all the characters, I cared more about their character, what they possessed as a personality traits, and not just about their looks on the outside. There were, drawn out mob bosses in that series who were actually kind of soft-hearted or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and that I paid attention more to that, and not so much like the racial or even facial features, nothing like that, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, like Alfred Pennyworth, do I forget about him just because he's old and whatever? No, he was very witty and funny at times, and that's what really captivated me with like the Batman universe characters.
Alfred was great.
So, oh yeah, he was awesome. And no, I could kind of care less. The only times where I'm like, oh, cool, was somewhat, some Spanish named character, uh, celebrity, or, normal personality that showed up on Sesame Street. For some reason, Sesame Street, you know,
That's true.
the guy with the tucked in shirt and brown belt and kind of high jeans, named, uh, I don't know what his name was, but he was like a store owner of some sort.
Mm.
And I'm like, huh, he kind of looks like the type of people my dad talks to. And so,
Ah!
you know, so that kind of resonates to me. I'm like, huh, it like it,
I mean,
you know,
it's like it's a nice thing, but it's like I think we all
yeah,
agree like it's not a requirement.
yeah. There was nothing much complex about my exposure to that. I'm just like, oh, that's nice, and that was it. That was like the end of the thought. I wasn't like, oh, where does he live? What does he do? Whatever, nothing too detailed. I'm just like, oh, he looks familiar. He's a
Mhm.
little darker complexion than the rest, except for a few, black people on the Sesame Street crew and staff or whatever. And yeah, and maybe one other scenario would be uh, in terms of like diversity thing that I noticed as I got older was, the Captain Planet's
It's
um,
true.
crew. Yeah, the kids. And then also, I'm not sure if you recall this show. It was very brief, either PBS or KCT. I don't know. It was called The Puzzle Place. There were Muppets. One was
Yes.
like Asian. One was
I,
named Kiki. I think she was like the Hispanic one.
I thought they
There
were all black.
was.
That's like my memory. Or maybe the protagonist was black or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, it was very brief in terms of like, oh, he kind of looks like me.
Gotcha.
But it was never like, oh, I wish this show had some that look like me. Boo hoo! I don't like this show. No, I like the show anyways if it had humor
Mm-hmm.
or something relatable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So final thoughts. What would you like people to know about your heritage?
I mean, just like I said earlier, pretty much contrary to what like the media usually, or not in the media, but like movies and stuff like that usually show, Mexico isn't just some third world country. Like they're actually really advanced and, like you said, really big in the media for like South Americans.
A second that I don't know why I'm bringing this up. This should be more something related to interracial dating with Hispanics and whites. Is not too common. Is not too common. Why I'm bringing up this topic in terms of like why I want this subject to be more talked about. It should be. I think there's a ton of potential in terms of like healthy friendships or even matchmaking when it comes to the white population and the Latino community. Big
Mm-hmm.
time. I think there's so much missing out. There's a lot of potential in terms of having an awesome life
Mm-hmm.
and simply exploring each other's grounds and language barrier. One of my past relationships, she was white, and it was a fantastic relationship. It was the best that I had. And I think there's a lot of Caucasians who they should, if it comes at a certain point in life where they're still single at 33, 36, whatever, consider base in terms of dating, try it out, try it out. And you don't
I
have
agree.
to just date your own single race. And sometimes it hurts to say this. Sometimes the romantic rapport you have with a Caucasian or some other race could be better than the one you have of the same race for some reason. Maybe you're too whitewashed for your own Hispanic community. There's some like what throws me off sometimes about the Latino community, in which I sometimes overhear a Spanish chick saying, "I want a guy that he knows how to dance and dresses up like a cowboy." Doesn't like really
You watch
like
too many movies.
yeah. I heard that. I hear that all the time,
That's fun.
and it's so they kind of see us as little. They see us as props and just like a statue to obtain, an award to obtain. It's like, have you ever tried, go date an Asian, a black, an Indian, whatever,
Mhm.
So we should be more curious, more
Mhm.
courageous to, go on the playing field of trying to it's gonna sound bad, get a little taste of other races. Uh, in an analogy, so
Well,
so
it's not talked about enough, I would say, or I guess people had just some apprehension, maybe. I don't know. Less and less though. I see so many mixed people nowadays, but
yeah.
there are still people who make assumptions and stereotypes and like, I don't know. Um, so before we wrap up, if you have anything to plug, now is your chance, very briefly.
I manage a page on Instagram, Nebula_oil, and it is a CBD line that I created to help fund my mother's life expenses and medical costs. So far, it's been successful to an extent, but I'm really trying to expand it um, in terms of like getting clientele. I'm still very early in the process in terms of understanding marketing and stuff. So that's my primary page that I manage and post all sorts of material, and Facebook as well. But
I can tag you on the page and then we will find. That is all for today. That has been Konnichiwa Habibi episode 6. Born on the Other Side of the Mexican American Experience. Thank you guys for everything. Hope we see you guys again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.